All right, now let's dive into the projects tab. So we'll look at creating projects, creating edits, using templates and saving templates, why you might want to do that, backing up your projects and that sort of thing. Pretty much if it has to do with projects and the basics of your projects, that's what we're going to look at in this video. So when you first open up Waveform, you're probably on this screen, the welcome screen. You can actually create a project right from here. You can click on New Project, give it a name, choose the location for it, template, which we're going to get into a little bit, and some other settings down here, especially if you use the templates. I like to work in the Projects tab, which is up here. So we go over to the Projects tab. It's not as pretty looking, but it helps to keep me more organized because in here, we can create folders. So you can see I have my active folders in here. And if you work on different band projects, so for different bands or different artists, or maybe even different albums or EPs or singles, then this can help to keep you organized because in here, we can go down, create a folder, and I'm going to name this folder Tutorials for now. All right, so I have this folder named Tutorials, and I can actually drag this down so it's at the bottom, or I could put it wherever I want. And if I already have some projects that I want in there, I could just drag them down, hover over top of it, and you can see now that tutorial is in that folder. And an important thing to note here is that this isn't changing where they are on your hard drive. This is just a visual thing in the program here. So these are just for visuals in the program. It's not moving them around on your hard drive or anything. And if I want this one out of the tutorials, I can just drag and bring it back up there. So the first thing we'll do here is just create a basic project. So I'm going to go down to New Project. I'll give it a name and call this Basics Tutorial 1. And I can change the location. I do highly recommend choosing a different drive than your main Windows drive. So if you have two hard drives on your computer, use the second one that doesn't have Windows, or if you have a portable hard drive connected to USB, use that one to record to. It's just because your operating system and other programs are using up the bandwidth on your main drive, so it can help to use a separate drive. And it also doesn't start to load up your main drive with recorded audio files. So if you do have a separate drive, use that, but if not, you can just use whatever location you want. So you can click there, choose where you want to save it to. I have mine saved to this H drive and in a folder that I call Waveform Projects. And it's going to create another folder in here with whatever you name that project. So you don't have to create another one in here unless you want to. Again, maybe you want to call it Album 2 if it's going to be your second album or whatever the album name is. You can do that, and then it will create the projects in that folder. So it's up to you where you want to save it. I'm just going to save it right there. Template, I'm not going to use one. I'll just have it set to the default one, but we will get back to that in a bit, and we don't have to worry about any of this stuff down here. So I'm just going to click on Create Project, and this is what it looks like when we create a project. I like to minimize stuff and customize the user interface right away, so I'll go up to this eyeball here. And you can kind of get an idea of what all of these represent. So this represents that browser over to the side. I click on that, closes it down. If I wanted to have the mixer open, I could click on that. The little piano roll, I could click on that, close it again. And if I want these minimized, I can do that. And if I want them open, I can do that. So you can adjust this user interface however you want. So we have our project here, and we can go in here and start to name tracks. Like I'll right click there, rename track. Maybe I'll put my drums on that track and bass on this track. Guitar 1 on this track, 2 on this one, lead vocals, backing vocals. All right, and say this is sort of the basics of my track here. I like to do that at the start anyway. I like to have all the tracks in mind that I plan on recording. So if it's going to be 2 guitars, maybe I'll also have acoustic guitar, some percussion stuff, synth stuff, whatever it is. I might have all of that planned out, and I'll create all of those tracks right off the get-go. And I'm not using this one, so let's just delete that, because why have it an empty track there? I can always add one later on. And to add one, you can click on this little plus sign here and add tracks, add several tracks, which allows you to add more than one at a time, add a folder and a submix. And that's for another video. I actually have another one that goes over this, so I'll include that in this playlist for this course. But right now, let's just say we're happy with this, and maybe we're working on an EP or an album, and this is kind of what we're going to have for every single song, or the basics anyway, for every single song. So we might want to save this as a template, so we don't have to do this every time we open up Waveform. We could also add some plugins in here. So maybe on the drums, we'll go to Waveform, Instrument, and we'll just add that micro drum sampler that comes with Waveform free. Click here, and I'll just put on a 808. Maybe on my guitars, I know I'm going to want to have some EQ on there eventually, so I'll just add that right now, put that on there, and I probably want that EQ on all of my tracks. Maybe I do, I don't know. Let's just say I do. So I can actually hold down Control on my computer keyboard, then click and drag and drop it to another track. And I can do that for all of these. And then I'm going to have my 8-band EQ on all of my tracks, because I probably will have some sort of EQ on each one of those tracks. Now, let's just say I know I'm going to use this for quite a few tracks, and I want to save this as a template. So every time I open up a new project, I can open up this as my basic default settings. So let's open up this bottom area here, our properties bar down here, and we'll go to File, and then Save Edit as Template. Click on that, and yeah, let's just call it Basics Tutorial, maybe not Edit 1, just Basics Tutorial 1. That's the template. I can give it a description. If I think I'll need that later, I might want to put a description in there. And if this is something you've already been working on and you're like, you know what, I want to save this as my template, but I have all my clips in here. If you don't enable this, it's not going to include all those clips. It's just going to be an empty project. If you do want those clips, maybe it's for a podcast and you have an intro and an outro that you always want, you could actually include those clips. But for this, I don't have any clips, but I wouldn't include the clips anyway. And then I'll click Create. All right, so I just saved a template. Let's close down this project now. Yeah, I'll save it. And now I'll click on New Project, and this time I'll just call it Tutorial Template. You can name it whatever you want, choose the location, and this time I'm going to click here, and you can see there are some factory templates in there that you might want to check out, but I also have the one I just created, so I will click on that. And do I want this to be my default every time I create a new project? I can have that checked if I do want that. And if this is a template that I know I've saved clips to, and I don't want those clips for this project, I could click that and it's going to remove all the clips. So let's just create this project. Here it is, and you can see it's got all the same stuff that I had set up in that previous project. This can just really save you time, especially if you start saving mix templates. You can just start to copy and paste your audio clips and MIDI clips into your mix template, because you can have multiple projects open at the same time. So I'll just go here, back to Basics Tutorial 1, double click and open that. And you can see I have 2 projects open at the same time. So if this one had some audio clips in there and I wanted to bring it over to a mix template, I could just easily copy it with Control C, then go over here and Control V, paste it onto whatever track I want. So let's just create a MIDI clip right here. So insert MIDI clip. I have this clip. Maybe I want it over my other one. I would just click on that clip, Control C on my computer keyboard to copy it, or I could right click on there, copy, go over to this one, and then I would just sort of click on the track that I want to put it on, go to the area, and right click, paste. And you can move this around wherever you want if it didn't paste exactly where you wanted it. And now we have the clips in both of these. And that's super helpful if you're using mix templates. But let's go back now to our projects tab here. And you can see here's our basics tutorial, and I want to put that in our tutorial folder down here. So I'll just drop it there, and now I can keep that there, and I'll also put this one down in there as well. All right, so I have both of my projects in my tutorials folder. I can collapse it if I don't want to see these anymore. I can move this folder up to the top if I wanted to put it up there, out of the way. Maybe I'm working on newer stuff down here, whatever you want. Again, this just helps to keep you organized. But let's just go back to our basics tutorial 1. And we're going to open that up. And I'll just bring in another clip here. This time a step clip. It doesn't really matter. I'm just kind of showing you when we have some clips in here. All right, so we have a couple of clips in here. And let's just say we've done a little bit of mixing. Maybe I've adjusted this EQ a little bit. I just want to test this out and hear how it sounds once I mix it down, but I may not want to keep these settings. So what I can do here is go down to File, Save, Edit As, and you can see by default it just calls it Edit To. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to click Save. It automatically saves into the same folder. I don't have to worry about any of that. But now we're going to close this down, and we'll go back to our Projects tab. And you can see when I click on Basics Tutorial 1, I have 2 edits in here. I have that first edit, and then I have Edit 2 with the changes that I made. And what I like to do here is when I'm doing my final mixes, I'll save the edit, that mix, and I'll call it whatever edit number I'm on, or maybe it's a specific plugin that I'm trying out. I might name it with that plugin name in there. And then that way, if I didn't like it and I made changes, I can just revert back to what I had previously just by clicking on the previous edit. So I do like to use edits quite a bit, and I'll have quite a few of them by the time I'm finished a project. Now, another thing that you might be wondering is, how do we back up a project? Maybe we want to move it to another computer, because I work on a laptop and I work on this desktop in my studio. Sometimes I like to bring my projects to my laptop to do some mixing in a different location. So how do I back this up so I can do that? There's a few ways we can do it. Is just go to your file explorer on your computer and find the location. So I know I saved it into here, and I have this Basics Tutorial 1. This is the one that I want to bring to another computer. I can just copy and paste that onto a USB drive if I want, and I can then bring that to my other computer and I can just open it from there. So if we go in here, you can see we have the edits here, and this is the main project. So this is what I'd want to open up in Waveform, and I could just drag and drop it in there, or you can see there's an open project here. I could click that and then find wherever I have that saved, and it's going to open that project along with the edits. You're going to have the edits as well. Any of the audio that you've recorded is going to be in this recorded folder. So it's going to have all of that stuff. Now, you might use samples, though, that are located in a different folder. So those won't be in here. And if that's the case, you might want to do this next way. So we'll just click on our project here and we'll create an archive. So you click there, go down to Create Archive. And in here, we can export type. And we can export this as a single Tracktion archive file, which means everything, the whole folder and everything is all in one file, basically like a zip file or a RAR file. It's going to be all collected in there. And when you move it to another computer or another drive or whatever, you're going to unzip it or open it in Waveform, and it's going to extrapolate all of those folders for you. And you can see, you can even save it with compression, which I don't recommend. I always recommend going to no compression. That way it saves the exact same audio quality that you have in this project. And you can choose wherever you want to save that archive to. And then you would just copy that one single file onto your USB drive or whatever it is you want to copy it to, bring that to your other computer, and then you can open it in Waveform from there, and it's going to do everything for you. Another thing you might want to do is click there and just export as files in a directory. And that's basically like just copying that folder that I already showed you, and you can just choose wherever it is you want to save that folder to. But it will also give you the option to copy any audio files that might be outside of that project into there. So you'll have that option. But I don't have anything in there, so it's not giving me any option. So that's how you can make backups. You can just store those folders onto USB drives if you just want to keep a backup somewhere, just in case, or you can move those around to other computers. Keep in mind, if you're using plugins that are installed on this computer and they're not installed on your other computer, then it's going to show you some errors when you're trying to open it, and it's going to say that that plugin's not available. Now, if you were to install that plugin, afterwards, you could close down that project, don't save it. You can install that plugin, open it back up, and it's going to be there. So it's not going to remove that plugin on you. Another thing you're going to notice in this projects tab, I'll just go to a song here that's kind of in the works, and you'll see all of my recorded audio in here. If I had any MIDI that I've exported, that would be in here as well. But you can see all of my recorded audios in here. I've made backups of this because I've exported them to another computer. Those are in here as well. And if there's anything else like imported audio and any of that stuff, that would be shown in here as well. But I could also click on one of these recordings that I've done, and you'll see the waveform for it down here. And I could actually play that right from here. And that way I know, oh, that's what this is. And you can listen to all of the different things that you've recorded in there. It shows you the take, the project name, the file name. So if you wanted to go into the recorded audio folder and just copy this file, you could do that. You can actually click here and open the folder containing this file, and you can find it in there if that's what you wanted to do. We can also rename or change the name of any of our projects and edits in here if that's something we want to do. Lots of stuff you can do in this project tab and working with projects and templates. As you can see, it's not as straightforward as maybe you originally thought, or maybe there's some things in here that you didn't even know existed. Now let's move on to recording some audio in our project, and we're going to do that in the next video, so I'll see you there. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube. And for Audio Tech TV, I'm Zane. Keep creating. Fist bump. Thumbs up.